Stephanie, you can get started.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the Planning and Stakeholders Relation Committee. I have a roll call. Members of this committee, would you please identify yourselves?
Tom Burgunder,
Allie Doyle.
Bobby Fan.
Christopher Salas,
Other board members, could you please identify yourselves?
Joe Todd.
Emma
Joe Todd.
Thank you. The minutes from the June 2025 meeting for this committee has been circulated. Unless anyone has any questions or correction, I would like to make a motion to approve these minutes.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will now hear a presentation from Amy Silverman.
Thank you.
Who will
Good
update
morning.
us on the committee. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, committee chair and committee members and board members and everyone else. Good morning. My name is Amy Silberman. I'm the Chief Development Officer here. I am going to provide a brief quarterly update on the PRTX University Line Bus Rapid Transit project. So as a recap, this construction project is broken out into two phases. We have phase one, which is our downtown portion of the corridor, and phase two, which is our uptown and Oakland neighborhoods of the corridor. So phase one, I'm happy to say, is very near completion. Our bus lanes, there's an image on the slide here of the bus lanes being painted red, or sprayed red, I should say. It's not paint, it's actually a glass material. And the signals and crossings are all updated and turned on. And so our buses, starting on June 22nd, began running this new downtown loop, and all of their schedules are built out now for that new loop. And the stations themselves, I'll go through on the following slides, but are physically complete. They have fencing around them still, and we are working behind the scenes on utility and data connections, and are very hopeful that the stations will be open very soon. I wish I could give you a date this morning. We don't quite have a date yet, but I think we will have a date very soon. And absolutely before the next time I'm up here with all of you in September, they will be open to the public. So we're excited about that and hoping that date is very near. Phase two is about at 15% completion. So we have several different areas throughout Uptown and Oakland, which are under active construction, doing mostly subsurface work with utility relocations and other connections under the ground, getting ready to build out those stations. And then I'm just going to give a brief image of each of our downtown stations, which are almost ready to be open. So, and these are in order of how a bus would move through the downtown area. So first starting with Ross Street Station, which is a 15-foot, that's our smallest scale level station. Again, the stations on this project are sized according to our projections of how many people might be standing and waiting at them at any given time, as well as the context of the immediate sidewalk area around them, to be cognizant of other needs and other pedestrians moving. So this is a smaller scale station at Ross Street on 5th Avenue. All of the stations will have seating, lighting, next bus arrival screen that will tell you in real time when the buses are coming, security cameras, emergency phones that connect directly to our Port Authority police. And then our fare vending machines are going to be our new style of fare vending machines, which are part of a separate contract and in progress right now. And so those will not be up when we open the stations this summer, but we have space in each station allocated for those to go in as soon as they are ready, which should be in early 2026. This is an image of William Penn Station, which is just past William Penn on 5th Avenue, sort of across the street from the Target, and that is a 30-foot size station. Then we have Market Square Station, which is at the corner of 5th Avenue, Market Street, and Liberty Avenue on that little triangle park there. And that is a 60-foot sized station. That is our largest single footprint station. Then we turn around on Liberty Avenue and then turn again and start heading outbound on 6th Avenue. And then on 6th, we have our Wood Street Station, which is at the corner of 6th and Wood. That is a 30-foot shelter. And then finally, we have our Steel Plaza Station, which is on 6th Avenue between Grant Street and Center Avenue. And that is two 60-foot shelters next to each other. So that's actually our largest footprint station in the entire project. And then a brief update, which is not directly related to the PRTX University Line project, but adjacent and had been impacted by construction, both on the University Line project as well as our Wood Street Station engineering project. And so I wanted to note that that bus stop on Liberty at Wood Street Station is now reopened. The benches have been returned and the fencing is down. It's a pretty high volume bus stop for us. Just wanted to provide that update, as I think the board had heard a few comments about that over the last year or so while that was closed. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions about the University Line project, if there are any.
Amy, I have a question that's not directly related to what you've discussed so far, but it's related to the service changes that went into effect in June.
Yes.
As you know, I use the South Hills corridor, and there have been stop relocations and so forth along that corridor in town, but signage hasn't been moved to correspond with the new stop locations. And I'm just curious when those changes are going to take place.
Yes, great question. So all of the signage should be currently updated in the field. We did have two temporary situations going on that started on June 22nd, which should now be fully addressed. One of them is we have our Next Transit Downtown Bump Outs project, which has 6 proposed bump outs going in downtown. Those bump outs have not yet arrived, so we've not yet built them out. That did impact our Wood Street at Forbes Avenue bus stop. So some of the South Hills routes that were supposed to use that bump out are now temporarily using their old bus stop, which was in front of PNC Tower, just far side of that intersection. And then we also had a bus stop on Smithfield Street that has changed in the last week or so. And so now that that stop has changed, all stop information should be fully updated and signed along Smithfield Street.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on the project?
This is Bobby. Hi, Amy. Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, I think just following up on Tom's question, I also, this is more of a follow-up to the service changes that took place and riders' ability to navigate the new stops and the temporary stops. I found it somewhat difficult myself as well in the downtown area, finding where to go and looking at the stops and seeing a list of intersections. And so I'm wondering if there's a template of some kind around stop closures and around instructing commuters where to go that would include a map of some kind or the nearest stop instead of a list of them.
Yeah, sure. We can absolutely look into that, board member Fan, for any future changes that would impact both permanent and potentially temporary stop changes. Yeah, we'll look into that and get back to you on feasibility.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do any other board members have any questions? If not, that is the end of the agenda for the committee today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Good
Adjourn.
morning and welcome to the July 2025 meeting of the Finance Committee. Up first, we have roll call. Will all committee members identify themselves?
Emma Shukir. Senator Williams.
Will all board members identify themselves?
Tom Burgunder.
Chris
Tia
Versalis.
McClenny.
Stephanie Turner.
Bobby Fan.
Thank you. Up next, we have approval of the minutes from the June 18th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting. Those minutes have been circulated, and barring no questions, I'd like a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion approved. Okay. Next, we have our board member requested budget and service scenarios presentation with Dominica Brown and Amy Silberman joining us.
Good morning. All right, so there are a few changes this morning. I will be doing the budget projections for the requested scenarios in a moment. Catherine will be here shortly to give an introduction. So until she arrives, so she's delayed by an accident, not her own accident though. Oh yeah, you're here. So do you wanna? Okay, great. So.
Good morning, and yes, I should have taken the bus or the train. That is my fault. Good morning, board members, committee members. Morning, everybody joining us. At our June committee meetings, we were asked by board members to look at two different scenarios. So we need to get off budget projections. Jordy, can we switch them? There we go. We're in the right presentation. Sorry, we had received requests for two presentations. Well, not presentations. Budget presentations to discuss what are options for service scenarios. One from board member Fan was what were the financial impacts to a short-term delay. So the proposal was a 6-month delay because our schedules go in 4 and 8-month increments. We recommended an 8-year, wouldn't that be great? 8-month delay on our service changes related to financial cuts. The other scenario requested by Senator Williams was the flesh out of financial impacts to the bill which had recently passed the House. This bill would hit the governor's level of funding to PRT for about 3 years. And at the conclusion of 3 years, double the amount of funding added in by the state. So our staff has built out what both those scenarios look like. Turn it over to Dominica to walk through that. Then I'll come back up. We'll be here with Amy to answer questions and explain what this means for us. Senator Williams, you will know better than I will. The House on Monday, Tuesday, passed a budget which has been sent over to the Senate, but the details for public transportation are still under consideration. And again, the bill still has to get through the Senate and the governor would still have to sign off before we'd have financial clarity. Dominique, if you'd like to take over.
Alrighty, hello again. So this slide is the slide that just displays our initial projections over the 10 years where Cliff stands today in the situation that we are currently in and why we are working on these scenarios, looking for additional funding, proposing these service cuts and all of these things. So just to kind of reiterate, we would expect our fiscal cliff to be in 2027 with 3 months remaining in our reserves, 3 months of expenses. And again, that's important for us to maintain in order to maintain cash flow. An example is that because the state has not passed a budget yet, we have yet to begin receiving state funds for our operations. So we are cash rolling operations at this point. So that's just one example of reasons that it's important for us to maintain some sort of reserve and a balance in order to continue operations. So this first scenario is in response to member Fan's request of postponing the service cuts by 8 months. So in the event that we were to postpone the service cuts effective October 1st of 2026, which would be early fiscal year 2027, our fiscal year 2026 would include spending reserves of over $100 million, and then still spending some reserves in 2027 as well. Years 28 through 31, we would not need to spend any reserves. As you can see, the budget drops in 2028 where we have a full year of the cuts. And our current funding would keep up with the expenses at that point. But once we get into years 2032 and beyond, we would begin to spend reserves again to fill that gap that we currently have in our budget. So we expect initially in the projections for the budget that we brought forth last month, we said that we would have a 38% reduction in wages and salaries. This scenario, we would need to increase that reduction to about 40%. We also expect that there would be a slight increase on the service reduction as well. I know we've been at 35%, but maintain that we may need to make cuts up to 40. And a scenario like this would definitely get us closer to that 40% service reduction. But this hopefully answers the initial question. I can pause now for any questions before we move on. You want to?
I have a
Thank you.
question. I have a
go
question,
ahead, Tia.
Dominica. Thank you. This is Tia. Just to make sure I'm understanding what we're looking at, this is if we are able to delay the service cuts.
Yes, so this is if we delayed the service cuts by 8 months. And so instead of implementing the cuts in February of 2026, we would implement them in October of 2026. And so that is under the assumption that we do not receive any additional funding. We postpone the cuts and implement them. Then we would need to make a greater cut in order to get to a level of costs that we'd expect over the 10 years that would allow us to have our reserves fill the gap that we expect to see in the budget.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was what we were looking at. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And to further amplify on that, we can present the board with the option of, on an 8-month delay, we can either go with closer to a 38% reduction, or we could take the 10-year horizon down to 9 years and 3 months. At this point, we just wanted to say what the 8 months would look like. So a delay is possible, but it either shortens the long-term financial future or it's a greater amount of service that we have to take off the street.
Are there any additional questions before we move on?
Yeah, this is
Or-
Bobby. I know that you'll be presenting on the 5-year projection that Senator Williams requested. I'm curious if the delay scenario is also presented in the 5-year window.
No. So the delay is only in the 10-year. And the reason that we presented it this way is just to be consistent with what we've been presenting with our current cut that we proposed. But I mean, we can easily show the 5-year if. I'm sorry. Yes. But this just shows that we're actually implementing the cuts in October of 2026. However, the 5-year does not display any cuts. It is what does our real world scenario look like at service quo with that additional funding?
This is Senator Williams. I also have a question. So is this looking at using emergency reserves that at year 10, there is $0 left in emergency reserves?
No, this looks at maintaining 3 months of emergency reserves still. And most of the reason for that is what I explained in the beginning. Anything can happen throughout these years where we need additional cash in order to maintain cash flow when there are pauses in how regularly our funding is coming, or even for major capital projects to kind of front roll that until we get reimbursed for it. And so in order to avoid sudden interruptions, it's helpful for us to maintain that reserve. The dollar amount in this scenario for our reserve is $149.7 million.
I might have additional questions after I see the next set of slides, but I'll pause for here right now.
No, I apologize. It's $188.4 million. The 149 is for the next scenario, so I can go there now. There are no other questions. Okay. So this is the chart displaying the 5-year projection for House Bill 1364. This is the bill that passed the House that was presented by Representative Nielsen. Over this 5-year period, we are assuming that in 2026, we will receive an additional $40 million, which is the estimated amount that PRT would receive with the increase to transit funding moving up by 1.75%. This bill also says that a commission would be established, and if that commission does not find a solution for long-term funding in year 3, that 1.75 would double to 3.5. So in this scenario, we did assume that in year 3, the 40 million doubles to 80 million, and that is displayed. So in the first 3 years, 26, 27, and 28, we are using reserves in order to fill the remaining gap in the budget. However, in year 2028, there is a slight deficit of about $2.7 million. And in years 29 and 30, as you can see the red, those are unfunded deficits that we would not have emergency reserves to use in place of the gap in our budget. This scenario also assumes that we are maintaining 3 months in the bank. And so the total deficit that we would see less using reserves is 132.6 million under this scenario for 5 years.
This is Senator Williams. Does this assume no cuts?
Yes, so this is no cuts, no fare increase. This is status quo for the next 5 years and what the bill would do for us.
And my understanding, so would you get 40 million for those first 2 or 3 years and then go up? Would it be 40 million each year? 40 million
So it would be
than our base.
Yes. So we currently receive we currently receive about 290 million from the state, and so this assumes in 2026 we would receive 330 million from the state, and then by 2028, assuming that there are slight increases as there usually are in the amount that we receive from the state, we would receive an additional 40 million on top of that. So once we receive that first 40 million, we would continue to receive that each year. And any increase we receive after that, we would continue to receive that each year.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
I think it does.
29.
And
yep, it doubles in 29.
Okay. And I think it's hard because we're looking at like so much data, and I understand how much work goes into this, but it's kind of, going along with where Member Fan was talking about like delaying the cuts. I'm trying to figure out like how we could kind of piece this together to last as long as possible without doing the service cuts, because those, according to the surveys, are the most impactful. It seems like people are willing to pay a little bit of a fare increase, that if we did something that was like a combination of kind of the things we were talking about, if we were to do a fare increase, but not system cuts, but maybe system redesign that would help streamline the service and get service to where people are riding it now and serve the needs that they are. Like, is there some way that we could like combine all of these things to minimize the damage to riders? And I know, Catherine, that's like kind of up in the air, but that's sort of what I'm trying to grapple with and why I'm trying to look at these numbers.
Right. So thank you, Senator. I was going to, I'm glad you asked that. This is an excellent point. So a point of order first. We are not scheduled to meet with you again until the last week of September, but the board chair has indicated she is more than willing to call a special session for us to walk through these implications. Even if we don't have a budget, but if it is a desire of the board to have a conversation, which staff would wholeheartedly recommend a public conversation about what we know, what we don't know, what people can expect. So it's not just the board, obviously, that's looking for the information. It's the north of 130,000 people a day who rely on us who are trying to figure out where can their kids enroll in school, where can they sign a lease. It is a very fraught time. Another observation is SEPTA is scheduled to make their first stage of service reductions in August. So they are planning by the end of August to take 25% of their service off the street. They are working through a lot of logistics right now, lacking any firm information on funding. They will be going forward with that, and I think that informs our decisions too. I can't imagine that doesn't impact the conversation coming from Harrisburg. We clearly do not need to make these draconian cuts in February. We can push them. Again, it just has an impact on a 10-year time frame. If there is no funding and a budget is set with no additional funding, it would take our staff about 5 months to move forward with all the work that goes into it. So back of the envelope now as staff starts some internal things, internal work, August going into September, but we would be at the board in September to say, here's what we are planning for February. So staff and the board have time for us to get a little more clarity and to get a little more information. You might recall in the presentations from our planning department on the 8 different steps of tiers of service reductions. The benefit on that is when we have clarification from the state on what funding is, the planning department doesn't have to start from scratch to see what that looks like on the street, how that translates into service. We can go through and see, okay, this is what is sustainable, and we will, it also will depend on how long this financing runs out from the state. And I know that you know this, but it bears putting in here. If what we receive is a 3-year patch versus a 5-year funding conversation or a 10-year conversation, all of that will impact what we bring back to you. Anticipate that what we bring to you for consideration will be keeping as much service as possible on the street, so maximizing that. Anticipate also that unless it's our doomsday scenario, that staff will be moving forward with the second stage of bus line redesign, and that hits the point that you're talking about. So the streamlining of services, the getting a little more creative of if every single route isn't coming downtown, can you reinvest those hours and miles of service elsewhere? Can you take routes which might be running peripherally and do something a little bit more consistently on the core? The service planning equivalent of getting the bang for your buck. So anything other than the doomsday scenario will include that. So it's an improvement not just on where we go, but also on like the rationalizing and getting the absolute maximum amount we can get out there. We will also react to state funding. We may get direction that we have to do a fare increase, and we may see our friends in SEPTA going to that 290 regardless of what happens in August, and that also changes our conversations too. So with as much information as we have, we'll bring back to you scenarios that keep as much service on the street as possible for the window of time that we know we have guaranteed funding. I am confident we can get those answers back to the board for consideration and to the public within well under a month of turnaround time, and then go forward with what is the information to make sure that we're vetting out. We received 4,000 comments for our public hearings. Those comments will impact what service modifications we do and don't make, because we've definitely heard from folks. And I think you make a good point too. We definitely heard from people that they would be more comfortable paying a little more in fares if they could still get home after 11 p.m. The impact of the fare change we modeled out on the doomsday scenario, we would anticipate usually for every 10% you go up in fare, you lose about 2 to 3% of ridership. It models out a little differently if you're not taking any service off the street versus if you are taking service off the street. So all of that is a really long way to say that as soon as we have more information, we'll be back, but anticipate us bringing you scenarios that say that we will not be making massive cuts in February, and that we will be coming up with this rationalized plan of how long do we know we have sustained funding, and between bus line redesign and whatever other efficiencies we can find that we can guarantee into the budget. We're also very conservative in our budgeting. So we usually overestimate what we will be spending on things and we come in under budget. And another point on this is these numbers are still based on the financials that we knew in January. So these are based on budgeted fiscal 25-26 expenditures. We have not modified this for the end of year closeout once we get to our audited figures for fiscal 26. Fiscal 25, we have come in under budget. So there is less money that has to come out of reserve. So that gives us more wiggle room too. Is that answering your question, or is it making it much muddier?
I mean, yes and no, like both. I want to look to SEPTA, but we're not SEPTA. We've also cut way more routes than SEPTA has. And so I continue to worry about the route cuts in particular, especially if, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if we make route cuts, doesn't our subsidy go down because we reduce our ridership?
It continues on the spiral we've had, where it was starting back in 2004, 2005, that we take service off the street, we have fewer people, and we have less coming back through the state formula. That's absolutely correct. And it's not just a ridership, it's also that we have fewer hours and miles of service on the street, and that factors into it too. So it's the less that you have out there, the less you're going to get back in
people are
funding.
hurting, and we're getting less money from the state. So
Right.
I understand this is complicated and everybody's working and there's so much unknown, and the fact that, I'm here in Harrisburg and we still don't have a budget or an agreement on transit, and it's the middle of July. I get that. But I also, I'm trying to weigh how much can we wait reasonably and I'm glad that we don't have to make a decision on the cuts in September, but I think more conversations about how we can sort of piecemeal this together, that we can last a little longer to get what we need out of Harrisburg.
Yes. And we will recommend the board chair consider some level of meeting in August, because again, 2 months is a really long time to wait. And again, not just for the board to be able to give us direction and take action, but for everybody who relies on us to get any level of clarity. So we, if that's the recommendation, we'll go ahead and speak to the board chair about pulling something together for August at a minimum for a work session, so we can continue to bring all this information back. And I do want to stress, when we started this process, we had a really long time frame specifically for this. We specifically wanted to design in that our folks here in Allegheny County would have a chance to interact with the legislature earlier than they normally would, or they would participate on a public hearing earlier than normal. We intentionally built out a very long process so we could be reflective, we could be reactive to what we were getting from the state, that we could advocate for what we needed, but that we would not end up in a situation where we didn't have the time to make well thought out recommendations, and that we would have the time to do the best thing we could to keep as much service on the street as possible.
Kathy.
Thank you.
Chris Purcell, I have a question or comment. I think Senator Williams brings up a really good point. I think this is ultimately a juggling act. It's an optimization model, right? Yep. We're trying to optimize, what's the best outcome in the long run, really, with the allocations we get from the federal government. What's the best outcome for our riders and then also our employers, right, in the region? And so it's that trade-off of fare increases versus service cuts. So I think we need to, look at it trying to, as an optimization model, what's that point of optimality? What's that appropriate balance, as opposed to, one approach versus another approach?
That absolutely. And I will, and to the senator's point, indeed, it's a bunch of different things going in there. And this is, an algebra, but we don't have to have X, Y. We have X, Y, A, B, C, and trying to pin them down. But yes, it is I can't improve on your statement. So yes, sir.
And then we ought to have maybe a little more clarity where we understand kind of probabilities, when we hit September, I would assume, in the budgeting process. But don't want to.
I think we say from your lips to God's ear. Is that what we say? So, and Senator Williams, thank you for being moved into Harrisburg. Thank you for moving your entire life there. Thank you to everybody in the legislature. I know that a lot of our conversations have been that our service has been cut, and our expectation that we have done what we can. Now we're looking for our electeds, but we know that there's a lot that you have to juggle, and especially with the getting more federal clarity on what that budget looks like and what the state has to react to. So we appreciate everybody who has been working on this, and we know it's not easy for you either.
I have an additional question. Oh, go ahead, Bobby. I'm sorry, Member Fan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. Yes. So no, again, thank you so much, Dominica and your team. I know this was an immense amount of work to put together all these different scenarios, and I agree with Member Brsalis that there's an optimization problem here, and it seems like the other dimension of um, the equation is what is happening with the state. And so I think I have two questions. One is a more simple one around timeline. It sounds like we will be looking at scenarios and understanding their different impacts in August through a special session. And then September would be when the cuts would be voted on. And I'm assuming that we would be discussing delays to the cuts in September. So that's the first question. I don't know if other folks need to jump in and answer that.
Yes. So it sounds, yes, so special session being called for information in August. And then based on what we know from that session and the sentiment of the board. So again, to Senator Williams' point, the scenario presented right here does not include a fair change, but if it is the sentiment of the board that we need to be looking at that, we can just move to where we're modeling that into everything. So we'll give you information in August, and based on that information, those conversations and what we know, we'll be coming back in September. And we are absolutely able to defer. We are able to defer if there's no funding that comes out. We just, the bank runs out sooner, or we will cover that in August. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I think my second question is, given that a lot of this is dependent on the future funding we might receive from the state, the outcomes of the committee, um, I'm wondering how soon we would be able to come up with first a number, I guess a timeline, right, of how I think right now we're discussing the 8-month delay to the cuts. So for example, if we go with that delay, um, or sorry, I'm just also thinking out loud here. Essentially, when we would be able to present a number to the state, right, in terms of given our current funding at 40 million, and given that there's a committee looking at additional funding levels, I assume that we'd want to present, a number to the state to make whole, um, our budget in terms of keeping things at whether it's current service levels or trying to return to something closer to service, prior service levels, given that there was prior confusion around the numbers in the past. So if we're able to also combine, whatever timeline we go with around the budget with a new number that's, essentially I see this as buying time. And I would love the insight and perspective also from Senator Williams and other folks uh, who are in the thick of it right now.
So let me go first, Member Fan, if that's okay. It sounds like what would probably be useful is us building out like a D-Day scenarios, as not that we're storming the beaches, but something saying from the point that we have clarity, from the point that we know what's going on with the state budget, what the steps are and how long it would take us to get to some level of, okay, we get the number from the state and within X number of days, we can see what that means for our budget and within X number of days. So let us put something together like that can be a tentative thing. So we, as opposed to saying, we can say, well, if we get clarity on August 2nd, then by this many days out, we know that we can present something to you. I think that's one thing we can definitely do. The make whole number continues to be 117 million a year. That is our 10-year number. That 117 million a year is our gap that we would need to go up 117 in 2026 and then have those annual escalators. The 10-year gap still remains from 2026 out at 1.8 billion. Regardless of what our annual deficits would be, regardless of X to Y to Z, the long-term number continues to be the same, and that's maintaining status quo. That's not looking at any kind of service restoration above the hours and miles of service that we run today. And anything that we do going forward, we've spoken with our comms group, we'll make sure that where we've got our funding crisis page on the website, it always anchors back to, in March of 2025, we presented this information. This was the gap and how has stuff impacted that, but that remains a number. So the legislature they've asked us what we need to maintain status quo. We've said it's at 117 million. we will not, I don't anticipate we'll have another conversation with them of a number of how to make it whole, because again, that number remains the same. And then I think you would ask for Senator Williams and anyone else to weigh in, so I'll step off.
I wish I had a good answer as to the timing for when the state would make decisions on transit funding. From what leadership says, conversations are cordial but slow. And so I've heard projections like we might be back here next week to finish it, or we might be back in September to finish it. And I don't know what that answer ends up being. And I wish I had more to give than that, other than that conversations are happening. And I know especially Senator Costa, because he's here in Allegheny County, is making sure to explain what Pittsburgh needs in addition to the governor's number, because as we saw in the projections, the 40 million doesn't get us where we need to be. We need a much larger number. So, continuing to push Transit for All PA proposals that myself and Senator Saval and Rep. Abney and Rep. Benham have proposed that would allow additional revenue to make up what PRT really needs, not only to maintain status quo, but to grow the system. And so those conversations are still happening. And I guess I encourage any public who are listening to continue to contact your state officials, the ones who represent you, and in leadership in both the House and Senate, to encourage them to make public transit a priority while we're finishing budget negotiations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and definitely echo that. And I guess I'm. This is my final question, actually. Given that we're discussing scenarios that include fare increases, I'm wondering if there's been any discussion with DHS about Allegheny Go. In the pilot program, there was originally a half fare program and a full fare program for riders. It seems like with any potential fare increases, it could be important to see what capacity there is for actually implementing a full fare program for Allegheny Go. I'm curious if there's any conversations there.
Excuse me if I can interrupt for one moment. We had a network interruption in the boardroom itself. We're working on coming back online. So if you could give us just a couple moments, we'll be back. I apologize.
No worries.
Sorry. So Member Fan, if you're asking a question, we missed that whole question in the boardroom as the. All right, we're starting
no
to come
worries.
back online now. Sorry about that.
Am I audible now?
Hold on one more minute for them to set everything up.
Okay, just let me know. Thanks.
Dominica, if you can please announce that you're back online, we'd appreciate it. Member Fan has a question.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear us?
We do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your patience. My question was, given that we're discussing scenarios with fare increases, is that if there's been any conversations with DHS about Allegheny Go, given that in the pilot program there was originally a half fare program and a full fare program, it seems that with a fare increase, that would be increasingly important to see what's possible around implementing a full fare program for Allegheny Go. So I'm wondering if there's any conversations there.
We'll talk with them. Yes, the program is ongoing. I believe we're still working on getting the contract renewed for a new year. But our understanding, and I believe the county's understanding as well, and per the contract, any increases in fares, they would still be responsible for half, and the rider would be responsible for half. But we are still in conversations about, how the program would continue essentially.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. And Member McClenny, I'm sorry for jumping ahead.
No, it's all right. I did earlier, so all good. Actually, my questions basically mirror Bobby's. I'm just going to ask a few more just to make sure that I understand the timeline. I agree to a special session in August for what that's worth, and I strongly agree with the optimization. I know that a lot of proposals are provided here on the different scenarios that we can provide, but if PRT is also able to like think outside the box and provide different optimization scenarios, just like how Member Fan had mentioned Allegheny Go. If we could also think of, obviously, we that's a great program that we want to keep moving forward, but say for something like bus line redesign, if there's something that isn't directly going to helping the services in a way that could prevent or delay any service cuts, maybe thinking about that. So just looking at all initiatives to see if there are anything that can still help the public, still help the community, prevent service cuts that maybe we haven't looked at before, and including that as part of the optimization. My other question was on timeline. So in August, we were talking about a special session. And what would it sounded like in September, we'll be looking at information based on that special session. What would we be voting on in September?
Thank you, Member McClenny. So August will be the intent is I'm pitching it, but of course we'll do what the board is asking us to do, would be to get you an update of what we know at that point on state funding levels, what our finances look like. So just getting you sort of a lay of the land. If we are making service modifications, like if we were in a scenario of no money, if we were proceeding with the big cuts, the 35, 37% cuts, the board would vote on this in September for February. So it would be, if we do cuts, it's about a 5-month lead time from when we have board saying, yes, go ahead and do that, to actually being able to have that happen on the street. So in August, well, bless you, we'll be getting you a lay of the land. In September, if there were significant modifications for February, the board would be voting on that. At a minimum, you would continue to receive updates based on what we know from finances and what that means for the service scenarios we bring forward to you.
At what point would we be
Bless you
able
twice.
to vote or put forward the delays, given that the vote would come in September if we have to vote on cuts? At what point does the delay come into play that we speak on that?
We'd be discussing that with you in August, and then we'd also, now if we're doing a delay, the board does not have to vote on this. You have to vote proactively if we're taking that much service out of the schedules. If we are delaying this, realistically, it would satisfy our process obligations. Just to give you the update, we do not need to have a vote coming back from the board for that. You've already passed a budget that has a certain spending level in it. We always bring you back a budget amendment. We always come to you December, January. Well, not December, because we don't see you in December. We always come back to you January with a budget amendment that the board votes on at that point. So if there were to be a delay that substantively changes how much money that the board is spending next year, you have any time in the fiscal year that the board can vote on it. So if we would recommend not to do major cuts in February, we would be getting you some level of appraisal of that in August, and then bringing that back to you for our presentations on service scenarios in September. So at a minimum, in the September committee and board meetings, there will be public discussion of what people can expect for February. The board does not have to vote if it is not a major service reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Okay, next up, we have the financial statements, review of the June 2025 financial statements.
All righty, so this first slide shows our passenger revenue on a monthly basis. And in the month of June, passenger revenues about close to $900,000 below our budgeted amount. So while you can see that it is still increasing, it's not exactly where we would have liked it to be. Revenues for the month of June are about $500,000 below budget, and that is primarily due to fares and access revenue. Interest income, again, overperforming what we budgeted. So we have a net of about $500,000 below revenue expected for the month. The expenses for June are about $13.5 million below budget, and that is consistent across every expense category where we are below budget. We do still have year-end accruals to get in. One example of that are payroll accruals. And so we will see an increase in that with our final and our audited statements. However, these are our unaudited statements at the moment. Subsidies for the month of June are about $50 million below, $49.9 million below budgeted. The majority of that is because we budgeted $49.8 million in reserves, and so far we've only used $2.5 million. Again, we do have accruals to get in to the statements, and so we expect to see that increase probably by 10 to 12, maybe $15 million dollars. Our June year to date, so June is the end of our fiscal year, so this is our fiscal year results, the first version unaudited. We're seeing about $1.1 million below budgeted in revenues. Again, fares were about $4.5 million below budgeted, and access as well, about $1 million. However, interest income is $4.2 million above budgeted. Compared to last year, we do have revenue that is almost $2 million higher than last year, $200,000 higher in fares. Access is still below, and that's mostly a timing issue. And then interest income is close to $2 million over budgeted over last year. Expenses for the June year to date are about $51.1 million below. The majority of that is because of wages and benefits. We do still have several vacancies. Also, we have lower pension costs than expected, and compared to last year as well. Our expenses are only about $300,000 above last year, and that is primarily due to the pension costs and the vacancies. Subsidies for June year to date are $50 million below budgeted. And again, that is due to us not using as much of our reserves as we've budgeted. And again, we do still have expenses that need to be accrued and recorded, so that amount will change. And compared to last year, it's $124.6 million less in subsidies. And that is, again, because we fully expended all of our federal funds at the very beginning of this year. And last year, obviously, we used a lot more of those. Our operating reserves the month of June began with $410.8 million in operating reserves. There were $24.1 million in cash inflows. 9.4 million of that was from the county for operating assistance. And then we had $40.6 million in cash outflows with the ending balance of $394.2 million. And that is the end of the financial review. Are there any questions?
I do have one question. This is probably just a new member question. The 124 million less in the federal dollars, did we go into the fiscal year presuming that? Like, was that in the budget that we, sorry, hold on. Was the budget last year approved with that anticipated?
Yes. So if you look at the capitalizations line, we budgeted 70.3 and we have actual 66.8. So there's only a $3.5 million variance per our budget. And the main reason for that variance is invoicing for vehicle overhaul costs. But the difference compared to last year is almost 140 million as to $139.9 million. And that is because we were expending federal stimulus dollars last year.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other questions from board members or committee members? Hearing none, this concludes the July 2025 meeting of the Finance Committee. May I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Good morning. I will now call to order the Performance Oversight Committee Board meeting. Members of this committee, will you please identify yourselves?
Senator Williams,
Other
Tom
members,
Burgundy.
other members, will you please identify yourselves?
Chris Bursalis.
Bobby Fan.
Any other board members present?
Stephanie Terman.
Emma Shukir.
The minutes of the June 18th Performance Oversight Committee meeting minutes have been circulated. Unless there are any questions, I ask for a motion to approve these minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Approved. We will now have awarding of the bids by Justin Cava.
Thank you and good morning, committee members. I have 8 items today for your consideration. All bids were publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. The first item is bid number B2505-34. This is for bicycle racks, utilizing the maintenance repair of our bicycle racks that are attached to our PRT bus fleet. This contract also includes the replacement parts for these racks, such as brackets and pivot plates. 596 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 6 suppliers accepted the invitation. 6 bids were received. A recommendation that a contract be awarded to Sportsworks Global LLC in the estimated amount of $356,045.90. This contract duration will be over a 2-year period with no renewal options. In the picture that you see here, that's just me operating one of our bicycle racks on our 6,800 fleet New Flower coaches at our Manchester location. Item number 2 is bid number B2505-30. This is for brake air dryer cartridges. These are used in our air brake filtration system for maintenance and repair. This solicitation was advertised as a line item award. 253 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 6 suppliers accepted the invitation. 6 bids were received.
Again, we had a technology interruption in the room and we're working to bring it on. Our apologies. It seems to be a snipe in the system today. Give us a minute or two. We'll be back.
Yeah, go ahead. As long as everyone can hear me.
You're good, Justin. You may continue. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was this one. Yeah, thank you. The second item was bid number B2505-30. This was for brake air dryer cartridges. This was used on our air brake filtration system on our coaches. The solicitation was advertised as a line item award. 253 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 6 suppliers accepted the invitation. 6 bids were received. A recommendation that the contracts be awarded as follows. Vehicle Maintenance Program Incorporated for line item 1 in the estimated amount of $226,660. Neopart Transit LLC for line item 2 in the estimated amount of $83,177.50. And CBM US Incorporated line item 3 in the estimated amount of $28,360.50. This contract duration will be over a 2-year period with no renewal options. In this picture here, it has our contract specialist, Rob Valenzuela, and myself holding the kits that are used in this. And what these filters do is they prevent any contamination to our air tanks and our braking system. Just wanted to put that out for a visual. Item number 3 is B2505-33, and this is for pantograph carbon collector strips. This is utilized in the maintenance of PRT's LRV fleet. 304 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 1 supplier accepted the invitation. 1 bid was received. A recommendation that a contract be awarded to Shunk Carbon Technology LLC in the estimated amount of $250,146. This contract duration will be for a 2-year period with no renewal options. In the picture, go back. That's when I just say what that was. It looks like a wiper blade, but it's actually one of our strips.
Hi, good morning. We are actually switching computers in the boardroom. The main computer seems to be having a really bad day. So give us a moment, please, and we'll be back.
Okay, everyone can hear me? Okay. Yeah, the slide before, I just want to show you what it, oh my. Can we just go back one? Okay, yeah, we'll just move on then. No, well, let's go to the next one. That's fine. Yeah, it was, the right here is good. We're good. So these pantograph, carbon collector strips, there's 2 per pantograph, and they go on a pantograph, and that's what hits the catenary that powers the LRV. So I just want to show you as a visual how it's installed on our LRVs. Okay, item number 4 is B2505-32. This is for rock salt bulk, utilizing the winter maintenance of PRT's busways and operating facilities. 479 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 5 suppliers accepted the invitation. 4 bids were received. Recommendation that a contract be awarded to American Rock Salt Company in the estimated amount of $1,459,350. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Rebecca Morochet. She's our contract specialist who was in charge of the solicitation. And next to her is Jason Van Horn, who's the manager of purchasing materials. His buyers purchase off the contract. And this contract duration will be over a 3-year period with no renewal options. And that's just a picture of the rock salt at our Building 5 location. Okay, item number 5 is bid number B250317R. This is for Insight passenger seat inserts, utilizing repair and maintenance of PRT's bus fleet. God bless you. 227 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted the invitation. 1 bid was received. Recommendation that a contract be awarded to Gillig LLC in the estimated amount of $874,244.25. This contract duration will be over a 1-year period with no renewal options. In the picture here is Rebecca Morochet and myself holding a ADA compliant seat insert. And they're located at our Manchester location. Item number 6, bid number B2505-29. This is for LRV traction motor bellows, utilizing the maintenance of PRT's LRV fleet. 228 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 1 supplier accepted the invitation. 1 bid was received. Recommendation that a contract be awarded to GMI LLC and the estimated amount of $196,500. This contract duration will be over a 2-year period with no renewal options. And in the picture that you see here is an actual bellow that is used to help cool the traction motors, which powers the wheels on the LRV. And that's on the next picture over. Yeah, and there they are right there. As it's installed, that's looking down on the truck to give you a visual how it's installed. Okay, item number 7. This is a CoStar's state schedule for 5,500 service trucks, Dodge Rams. At its May 2025 meeting, the board authorized PRT to enter a contract with Jim Shorkey to provide 6 2025 Ram 5,500 trucks under the terms and conditions of the respective PA CoStar's contract 025-E22-485. However, the 2025 pricing at the time was no longer available. Therefore, PRT wishes to purchase 6 2026 Ram 5500 trucks under the same terms and conditions of the PA state contract. Recommendation that this cooperative contract be awarded under the same terms and conditions of the CoStar's contract for municipal work vehicles to Jim Shorkey in the estimated amount of $1,062,346.50. This is an $8,000 increase from the previous 2025 pricing. Are there any questions on the first 7 slides? Okay. Last item. This is for the leasing and operation of the Wabash parking facility. This will be a change order. This is a revenue contract. At its September 2020 meeting, the board authorized Pittsburgh Regional Transit to enter into a contract with PPG Public Parking to lease the PRT-owned Wabash HOV parking facility located at West Carson Street. The initial term of the contract was for a 2-year period through December 31st, 2022, for the total rent amount of $156,000 payable to PRT in equally monthly installments. At its October 2024 meeting, and following the exercise of previous option years, the board authorized PRT to extend the term of the contract through December 31st, 2025. To date, the contractor has continued to perform well in providing the operational maintenance services required under this contract. Due to PRT's ongoing funding challenges, which could impact the future ownership, maintenance, and operation of the adjacent Wabash HOV tunnel and larger site that includes the Wabash HOV parking facility, staff is requesting the extension of the contract for additional 1-year period. A recommendation that the contract be amended with PPG Public Parking to further extend the term of the contract through December 31st, 2026 for a total rent amount payable in equal monthly installments of $96,000 with an additional option to extend the contract an additional year at PRT's sole discretion, subject to the parties' agreement on rental, rate, or any such additional contract term extensions. Any questions?
I have a question
Okay.
about
Subject to any further questions, I
hello.
respect. Oh, sorry.
Okay. This is Tia McClinney. I have a question about the Wabash parking facility lease.
Okay, I'm
So
holding.
to make sure that I understand, it was through September 2025. So due to the funding um, insecurity that we're currently having, we want to extend this contract so that we can upkeep, because I know the Wabash Tunnel is one of the tunnels that could be impacted, and I'm guessing this is part of that tunnel.
Yes, Mike, you speak to that. Thank you.
Good morning, Member McClenny. Yeah, to answer your question, we were having a little audio issue here, but I understood your question to be, we're seeking to extend this lease at this time due to our funding uncertainty, and that is correct. So typically, we put this out for, again, it's a revenue generating contract, but we put it out for solicitation every 5 years. But because of our funding uncertainty, which could potentially impact future ownership of the Wabash Tunnel, and this adjacent parking lot is part of that site, we are recommending to the committee, and if the committee concurs, to the full board, to extend the current lease with PPG Public Parking another year with a potential additional option year at this time while we determine, the longer term future of this site.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Do any other board members have questions? Hearing none, I ask for a motion to move these resolutions to the full board for approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Approved. Mr. Cava will now present the tentative schedule of upcoming solicitations, quarterly update.
Okay, these are some of the upcoming solicitations in the next quarter. We have environmental sampling, testing and reporting, remanufactured new exchange Collins turbochargers, brake jumps for our buses, on-call tree removal services, and interpreter services. Printing of public timetables, non-destructive steel rail testing, general marketing services, technology consulting and support, a DB consultant, and offsite record storage and services.
All right. Do any board members have questions? All right, hearing no questions, if I could have a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved. So moved.
And I'll take that as a second. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Cava.
Thank you.
This is Tom Bergender. I'd like to call the Technology Committee meeting to order. Members of the committee, please identify yourselves.
Chris Versalis.
All other members of the board.
Emma Shucare.
Tia McClinney.
Bobby Fan.
Senator Williams.
The Technology
Stephanie
Committee
German.
last met. Oh, excuse me. Approved. The Technology Committee last met on June the 18th, and minutes of that meeting have been circulated for your consideration. Do I have any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve the minutes on June 18th, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved. Now I'd like to call Justin back to discuss more award of bids.
All right, thank you and good morning, committee members. I have one item today for your consideration. This is bid number B25-27. This was Omnissa Horizon 8 licensing. This is utilized by PRT's IT infrastructure department to allow access to virtual desktops from any device with an internet connection. 880 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 11 suppliers accepted the invitation. 10 bids were received. A recommendation that a contract be awarded to SciTech Incorporated in the estimated amount of $320,498.50. This contract duration will be over a 3-year period with no renewal options. Any questions on this bid? Okay, subject to any further questions, I respectfully request this bid be taken to the full board for approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the resolution to take it to the board?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
That's all we have for the technology committee. So do I have a motion to it? Oh, we have one more. We have one more. Justin, are you on for this one as well?
This is a presentation by Trapper Kirk.
Oh, okay. We have a presentation by Trapper Kirk. Would you prepare or present your presentation, please?
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and committee members. My name is Trapper Kirby. I'm going to be going over the Fix CMMS system. This is our cloud-based computerized maintenance management system. This helps streamline and optimize maintenance operations, improve maintenance processes, and asset management. Some of the top benefits of the system: it digitizes work, eliminates paper-based processes. Technicians can access and create work orders from anywhere, add photos and notes easily. What you have in the picture up here is the work management portal. So each section of the work management portal, like maintenance, work order, scheduled maintenance, task groups, and projects, all have show help videos. So this helps improve our training processes. If someone forgets to do something, they can easily click on the show help video. It walks them through that process. Also, down at the bottom, there's a help and support module if you had more detailed information. We are also creating internal training videos for user groups, so that also helps speed up the process if someone forgets. The training's minimal on this, so this is just one more step of improving that. Other top benefits of the system are the reporting and analytics, real-time dashboards, customizable reports, KPIs, which are key performance indicators. So you track items like mean time to repair, mean time between failures, planned versus unplanned, overdue work orders. This helps us to identify trends and bottlenecks. I have an example of a dashboard. These dashboards are fully customizable for the users or for the department. So you can see items like how many active work orders I have, how many overdue work orders I have. You can have bar graphs there telling you how many overdue work orders I have by date range, or how many I have based on priority levels. You can also show items like top 25 assets with work orders on them, or corrective work orders on them, or damage or safety. Like I said, fully customizable, easy to use. The reports, you don't have to have a lot of experience on doing the reports. You can just simply add reports as needed. The system walks you through it, so it's very intuitive, very user-friendly. Another top benefit that helps us improve process on finding information and looking up items is the asset management portal. So it's a centralized asset hub. You identify databases. What it does is it brings over all the information, the databases from multiple databases, into one screen. So everything in the system is organized in a hierarchy form. So like a facility, then equipment, then so on, the hierarchy form. When you click on a piece of equipment inside the system, what you will see is the picture of it, the name, description, any notes for it. You will also see make, model, and serial number, but then in the middle of the screen, it will also show you other relevant information to that asset, like its financial records, cost of maintaining it, purchasing information when you purchase it. This helps you do depreciational costs. You have your log, which shows you all work that's ever been done on that asset, plus how long it's been offline or online. Another really good item that's on this system is the custom reports, or the custom screens. Custom screens, you can add anything you want to track. So it doesn't matter what it is, you can add it, simply add it to the screen. This simplifies having asset information in multiple spreadsheets. So by using the custom screen, you can track whatever you'd like to track. You can also move those custom screens over to this one. This is just the general layout. This is just what it looks like out of the box, but these screens can be customized, and people usually do. The amenities department primarily uses these custom screens. Another good benefit of this system is the preventive maintenance and PM scheduling. This helps us easily automate and change PMs based on counter intervals and usage conditions, and supports nesting PMs. Biggest benefit of this is nesting PMs. Nesting PMs can take multiple levels of PM. So if you have something that's like a monthly, yearly, and something that's generated every 200 hours, you would have 3 scheduled maintenances in the system. What this does is combine all 3 together, making it easier for us to find the information and make changes and to look for duplicates. Another really good benefit of the system is its integration. This integrates with other devices and software systems, uses equipment and vehicle sensors to trigger work orders and notifications. So this would tie into other control systems if you would like it to. We're exploring this option further right now. So if a piece of equipment has an alarm that goes off for a high temperature reading, it will automatically generate a work order inside the system to have someone go out and follow it up. So that notification then would come through on their mobile devices. Integrates with like our ERP system. So employee rosters, employee information can come over. So if one person moves from one department to the other, they get their information, they get their work orders in that department that they're currently in, not their old department, speeding up the process of doing that manually inside of the system. Another really good benefit of the system is the mobile application. You can access work orders from anywhere, upload files and videos and documentation. It's fully voice activated. So when you're out in the field, paper copies used to go out there. Now we don't have to worry about losing paper copies, getting stuff spilled on it, writing down information, having to translate that. Use the voice to text feature. You can speak and it'll just write all your information down. It's really easy to use for work orders. There is a QR code that the system automatically generates for every asset. So if that QR code is attached to that asset in the field with the mobile device, you can scan it and pull up all the information that you would need to know about that asset. Make, model, serial number, work order history, parts and documentation. You can create a work order right there. The work order, the system of this is really easy to use. So it's a simple click on the work order. It comes up, gives you the information for the work order. You would swipe right to close out the task. If there's an issue on the task, you click on the task. It's going to prompt you to enter a task completion note or a meter reading. A meter reading is something like voltage, amperage, temperatures, pressures, whatever that numerical value would be. Then at the end of it, it's going to ask you again to enter a completion note for the PM. And there, when we train people, we ask everyone to enter a completion note if they had issues on the tasks. This helps speed up the process when management goes to review the PMs for follow-ups. They can look into the main dashboard and see that there is a comment in there and load to that work order to do the follow-up faster. To summarize, it automates and digitizes our core processes, centralized maintenance with easy to use and learn system, provides real-time visibility into asset performance and team activities, improves communication via tech updates in the fields, and also with your KPI, key performance indicators, trend analysis, and helps reduce downtime. And I like to add, this really helps us with like reporting and audits and finding information, making customizations. Like our time is cut in half compared to what it used to be using the paper-based systems. So is there any questions for anybody?
Yeah, question, Chris Purcells. What's this replacing? Did you have a previous enterprise system or just?
It's replacing an old Access database. This is currently being used at the facilities department. So facilities, power, way, amenities department. It's currently being used to replace an old outdated system.
Good.
Have we already received bids for the cost of this new item, or will that?
Yeah, it's already been implemented. It's been implemented now for about 4 years, and it's been growing.
All right.
So now we use it on a 3-year contract. We get 50% discount on the contract and negotiating, and I'm going to do some more negotiating with this later on for licensing. So that's coming up.
Does this interface with other ERP systems that we have in place?
Yes, it will. Yes. And that's what the development team is working on. The API application that this thing has pre-built-in code, so that developers, it speeds up their process. So they could drop the code in there, then they would just have to fill in a couple other items inside that, connecting it to. I think our one connection to our ERP system, I think it only took about like 10 to 15 minutes to put in, to get it inputted, but we're still running testing on that.
And when we take this out to bid, will it include execution consulting in the execution of this?
What do you mean by that?
In the application, in putting it together.
Also currently right now we do everything in-house. The benefit of this system is that where it saves us a lot of money is it's able, and the development team's able to do everything in-house. This is very easy for a small team to implement. Then if there's an issue, Fix is right there to support us. We had one issue where we were having issues with the catch having to be cleared out, login issues. After we realized what it was, we called Fix. They had it fixed within 12 hours. And they did an update and patched update. So we didn't lose any data. We have a 99% uptime on this.
So it doesn't require a huge integration project.
No. I mean, you can go as far as you'd want to, but this one's a very small team. This is why I mainly picked the system because of that. Being able to do everything in-house, not use consultants or use outside firms. The speed that it takes to implement this is very nice. And it's very user-friendly. It's like the next step into our systems. There's our systems you want to step into. This helps you get you there. This also puts you on the road to predictive instead of preventative maintenance when you start connecting it to other systems.
Any other questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
This concludes the Technology Committee report. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And this concludes our committee meeting for today. Thank you very much for attending.